PokeClass is sponsored by CollectorsCash.com, your #1 online store for all you need for the Pokemon trading card game. They have all the top competitive and collector's cards on the market at prices you won't find lower anywhere else. Whether you're after tins and packs from the current format, or just looking for those hard to get primes to finish off your deck, Collector's Cash is your place to go. Make sure you check them out at www.collectorscash.com. Welcome to episode 46 of PokeClass, where I'm going to be bringing you my second tournament report of the Battle Road series, along with an analysis on the most winning decks so far as we move into the final stages. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. So the 8th of October brought us to Nottingham Battle Roads, which is usually one of the places with the highest turnout when it comes to events. But as it turns out, we only had 22 people in Masters compared to the 29 of Manchester. But the players that came were all very skilled players, probably a collection of some of the best in the country, so it was going to be a challenge for those championship points. We had 5 best of 3 Swiss rounds and a top 4 cut, which is never a bad thing. And I chose to play Yanmega, Cinccino and Mew with the techs of Muck, Crobat Prime and Zoroark. This was a very strange deck choice for me, which seemed to work on paper, and I was a bit reluctant to try it out at first, simply because I had built it just a few days before. Since it was just the Battle Roads, designed to take some of these decks for a run, I decided to take it for a spin. So first round I was against someone who I play with fairly regularly and was #1 in the UK last year, Tommy Roberts. Luckily for me, he is just one of the 2 Gothitelle players I saw before the tournament began, so things should be pretty good for me because of Mew. First game, I get to go first and have a Mew start with a Psychic Energy along with a Collector, which is pretty much all I could wish for the first turn. I collected for more Mews, grab a Cinccino and then use Sea-Off to put a Cinccino straight into the Lost Zone. From here on, I'm able to attach double colourless to all my Mews and start using Do the Wave for 100 ×2 on all of his Pokemon, meaning that the lock doesn't ever get put on me properly. The Psychic weakness is pretty much Gothitelle's biggest downfall, and I was lucky enough to make full use of it straight away. Second game, unfortunately for him, goes pretty much the same way as it did in game 1. Even with the advantage of going first, I was able to get an early Cinccino Sea-Off, which allowed me to hit for double weakness all game, even when the train lock was in effect. This eventually led me to my first victory of the day, which is a very good start, and on to round 2. Round 2 pits me against someone who you may remember from my last episode. I played him at Manchester Battle Road in a great game, and Alex Holdway was ready again to play with Zekrom. Game 1 he goes first, which is never great when going against Zekrom, and we both get set up pretty nicely. I managed to get the Sea-Off on a Zoroark on around turn 2, so I'll be able to mimic Bolt Strike whenever needed, but the prize trade just gets the better of me, and I'm able to hit the one-hit KOs on Tornadus and Zekrom when it was most crucial, and I lose the first game. Game 2 is such a nail-biter, and it comes down to him getting a slow start for me to start Lost Zoning my techs for the game. This time, I actually have time to see off a Muck when I realise that he's burning energy really quickly. He had to discard a few lightning energy early on with Juniper, and all of his attacks so far were fueled by triple lightning energy, meaning a KO would throw them right away into the discard pile. Realising this early on, I was able to bring up Zekrons with energy on them with Sludge Drag, and then force him to flip if he wanted to attack, resulting in the tails I needed to avoid the KO, and take 1 KO back. By the end of the game, it's still pretty close, for all of his lightning energy is gone, and he can't take the last KO needed to win, and I use Mew to copy a Bolt Strike for my last prize. Now because these games were so long, time is called when we're setting up, and we have to go to sudden death. This game was actually really frustrating for me because I had to go second due to the flip at the beginning, and he started pretty poorly. I have the win in hand while faced with his Pachirisu in the active spot. And from this, he's able to Professor Juniper into the Pokemon and energy he needs to get Bolt Strike going, and takes out my Cinccino before it can evolve and take out any of his bench Pokemon. If the flip had gone the other way, I would have gone forward, but that's just how the game goes sometimes, and the games we played fully were some of the best of the day. So I'm on to 1-1, and I get paired against my brother for the next round. This is only his second tournament after we got him into the game just before Nationals last year. Despite that, he's come a pretty long way and we both know each deck's pretty well, probably more his than mine. He's playing a stage 1 variant as well, but with Lantern and Yanmega, so it's going to be pretty intense. Game 1, I get to go first and have the turn 1 see-off to put Cinccino in the lost zone. Luckily for me, he gets a terrible start and I'm able to fill my bench from the second turn and start catching up everything before it evolves and take all of my 6 prizes pretty quickly. Onto a very swift Game 2. In Game 2, the tides are turned and I'm the one with the poor start. Before I know it, Yanmegas are swarming the field and Lantern is ready to wreck the Yanmegas I'm just about setting up. By the end of the game, time is close to being called and I scoop knowing that he has too much control for me to risk going any further, and we head into Game 3 instead of a sudden death. After about 2 turns each, time is called and we're equal in prizes. He gets the extra turn over me and I'm able to take a prize in my only extra turn. This means that he needs to take a KO on my active or damaged bench Pokemon to stay in the game and take it a bit further. Unfortunately for him, the only hand refresher he has is Copycat and he needs a Yanmega to take the prize. He hits the Yanmega but is unable to match hand sizes and the game is mine. So it's pretty unfortunate to play my brother, but I'm glad to be back up to 2-1 after some really great games. We all set off for lunch and I'm actually paired up for the next round against Tamal Cameron, another player I know quite well. He's currently on 3-0 with his Zekrom build and if I win this, I'll be in great standing for the top 4. So Game 1, I lose the flip and go second to his pretty solid start. Tornadus is easily his MVP of the game, with him being able to KO any of my moves he likes. I do manage to get a Cinccino going, but I whiff on what I need after copycatting for a massive 9 and he takes control of the game from there. We actually both get warnings in this game for not noticing him not taking a prize early on, but we're both pretty chilled out about it and carry on. My moves become easy targets via catcher before I can find double colourless and I lose the first game from there. Game 2 I get to go first and get the turn 1 see-off, which is actually where I make my worst misplay of the day. I go ahead and see off the Zoroark as usual, but then actually change my mind and choose to put Muck in the lost zone instead. Since he was having a rough time from here on, I thought it was a good idea to render his Zekrom useless via Sludge Drag. Unfortunately, I walk headfirst into constant outrage KOs after the poison damage has been added on, and I just can't find the opening to lost zone Zoroark I should have thrown in there on turn 1, and he takes the game from there. So I was fairly annoyed with my misplay since he had a really bad game draw-wise and could probably have taken it to a third, but he ends up doing extremely well anyway, so it's all good. On to the last round. So Top Cut is pretty much out of the question from here, so I'm up for some good fun games to finish off the day, and I'm happy to be playing Liz Roberts, Tommy's mum. She's playing the same deck as me but without the Muse and thicker lines of both Yanmega and Cinccino, so it's going to be a rush to the finish to see who wins. So Game 1, I managed to get a turn 1 see-off for putting Cinccino into the lost zone and have a perfect setup from here. I'm able to take a few prizes before she gets anything set up, but by that time she has a swarm of Yanmega with rescue energy attached to stop me dead in my path. My Muse and Cinccino are struggling to take 2-hit KOs at best on her Yanmegas, which are running through my Muse with ease. After a couple more catches and a few Cinccino added into the mix from her side, and my good start turns into an uphill battle that I just can't win. On to Game 2. Game 2, I get to go first and have yet another good start to a fairly poor one. I'm able to see off Cinccino yet again, but on turn 2 this time, and have the means to fill the bench next turn for massive damage. All she is able to get is Yanmega in the active position and passes, leaving me to fill my bench, play a plus power, and take the KO on her Yanmega to move us on to a very swift Game 3. This third game was a really close call as time gets called after a fierce prize trade early on. Both of us go aggro Yanmega and Cinccino to take as many cheap prizes as we can, and we kind of hit a stalemate to take the last prize. Both of us are clinging on by the skin of our teeth, with heavily damaged fields on both sides. The issue I had was whether to match our hand sizes and set up a KO on the next turn, in turn making it easier for her to attack with Yanmega, or play conservatively and wait for an opening. I decide to make my hand size hard to match, which buys me a few more turns, but I use Judge at the wrong time to search for a double colourless and give her exactly what she needs for a final KO on the last turn of time. A great game, and even though it put me at 2-3, there were some really great games. So in the end, there was a top 4 of Zekrom, a Ross variant, Zekrom Lantern Yanmega, and Donphan Dragons with Cinccino. Gemma was actually the one playing Donphan and took Jack down to the last prize, just losing out to time in a very close top cut game, so that was really great to see. In the end, Jack with Zekrom Lantern Yanmega lost to Tamal with Zekrom to determine who would take the 2 championship points home this time. Overall, a great day and perfectly organised as ever at Chimera, and bring on tomorrow's tournament in Sutton Coldfield. So my performance may not have been the best, but I do try out a pretty experimental deck idea to see how it played, but I think I'm going to go back to one of my original ideas for the last Battle Roads, and then the Prague Cup in November. If you're going to Sutton Coldfield Battle Roads, then I'll see you there, and any of you going to Prague in November, let me know in the comments below. As for the rest of the Battle Road tournaments so far, we've pretty much seen the same decks winning, and just adding to their already high numbers. Let's have a quick look at the table after a 4th week of competition. As you can see, the 2 top spots have actually levelled out, with Reshiram variants sharing the top spot with Zekrom variants now. Reshiram Typhlosion is showing a much higher win percentage over variants with Embor, which could simply be because of the amount of people playing it. Just see last episode for an example of that. Zekrom is showing that variants with Tornadus are the ones to play for success, with 23 of them taking tournaments all across the US. Other than that, the other main decks in the top 5 are what you would expect, including Gothitelle, Yanmega Magnezone and Stage 1 Rush. As a quick note, Ross's deck from Worlds isn't getting the best representation at the moment, but it has sprung up to 3 wins so far, which is pretty interesting, along with Kingdra Yanmega bumping up their wins to become 6th in the table so far. That is definitely interesting with the amount of Zekrom around at the moment. So to conclude week 4 of Battle Roads this autumn, the Dragons are reigning supreme at the top, whether it's Zekrom or Reshiram in their respective decks, but the format is still pretty wide open to creativity that bears some great results in some cases. Zekrom is definitely a deck to watch out for right now, since it's pretty hard to deal with if it gets a decent start, and Reshiram Typhlosion is next on the hit list to watch out for, so make sure those are both your height of testing. So that's pretty much all I have for you this week, so thanks for watching PokeClass. Rate, comment and subscribe in the bottom left or top right corner in a second, and I hope you all do great in your last week of Battle Roads play. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week with my last Battle Roads report.